Solar Group presents. This was once just a dream of the skies, the freedom of flight, of round-the-world journeys. Yet we've made it happen. But what did it take? Our dreams became our goals. Our concepts turned into our plans. Our ideas have transformed into a roadmap and production technology. And the years ahead are booked out with development and construction, components and materials, model manufacturing and testing. All this marks the progress from dream to result. Join us on this journey. Solar Group presents a new generation of airships. The best way to predict the future is to create it, so let's do so together.
Hello friends, you're back with the Next Generation Airships project. We have a new episode today, a webinar with Fedor. It's been a while since we've been here, it's been a while since we've seen each other, and today we'll share some updates.
Yes, hello friends. It's genuinely been a while, hasn't it? We actually missed the last webinar.
Yes, that's when we had investors visiting from Africa.
Yes, Gilles Weber came and personally visited the site, and we proudly showed him and the other foreigners how the airship flies.
So it actually turns out it's been exactly about a month now since we were last on air, quite some time.
Yes, we need to recall what happened. Sorry, today is a bit of an impromptu session as usual, really.
Well, let's probably start with the most relevant and interesting news.
No, let's save the most relevant and interesting stuff for later, because usually people join in during the first half hour. I'd actually like to briefly recall what exactly happened since our last webinar, what we thoroughly discussed there, what we specifically talked about, and what has precisely happened since that particular time. Other than Gilles, no one else has visited us.
We have regular investor visits. We held them every Friday.
How many have there been? 4 or 5, I think.
4 or 5 have actually taken place.
Friends, we've been consistently giving tours to our valued investors and to anyone else who is interested. Maybe you were there. If not, with a short break, you'll soon be able to visit again. Basically, people were taken in groups to the airfield, shown how the airship flies, how it maneuvers, and all questions were answered. It was very useful for us as well. It was an outing for many who went there as guests. There were some funny moments, like the comments. Guests would say, "Wow, it's real, it's big, and there's this tiny toy car." Honestly, yes, even we, when we watch its flights almost every day, start to get used to it and stop noticing. But when a new person or a group comes, sometimes with children, and they watch all of this,
their truly enthusiastic looks are definitely quite motivating. Many people have pointed out the undeniable fact that in person it genuinely seems to maneuver quite actively and with great agility, while on video it looks considerably less, let's say, lively and dynamic.
Yes, that's quite likely indeed. The last time in strong winds it was extremely maneuverable, remarkably so. Honestly, even I was genuinely surprised. And the operators' skills, in fact, as well as all the intricate algorithms, they gradually get honed and improved little by little over time. And for example, when Dima now skillfully flies it manually, he truly understands the fundamental basics of control that the engineers had diligently tried to explain to him previously. That you shouldn't fight the wind, you should use it. Yes, roughly speaking, as Dima quite accurately says, we are essentially surfing with the wind, and it all actually looks very dynamic and quite engaging.
Plus, on August 7th, it was exactly 1 year for us. I don't remember when was our last webinar.
I think we had a webinar around that time dedicated to the fact that it had been a year, what had passed, what had happened. Oh, I was summing things up. Right before August 7th, there was a webinar lecture
And on the 7th day, it was especially symbolic and significant for us because that was precisely when the official very first visit of our esteemed investors and valued partners truly took place. We actually carefully timed it to coincide with that specific date.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So regarding the comprehensive tests, the initial and crucial first stage of testing for the NOVA 01 project has now been successfully completed. All systems are working. You might have seen this in the latest post if you read it. If not, I can remind you. Overall, our onboard control system is now operating flawlessly. Everything is working properly. The systems have logged a certain number of flight hours. Everything is within normal parameters. Nothing shuts down, overheats, or goes into protection mode. The airship responds correctly and precisely to all commands sent from the ground control station. We also turn it on and off remotely when we're in the office, and it's securely in the hangar. All the high-definition video cameras, all the crucial operational data, everything is being packaged and efficiently sent to the server, and all the packets are transmitted completely without errors. The control system is working, the algorithms, the autopilot, that is automatic control mode, with all the onboard systems. Everything is now fully connected. A remote pilot right from the office. Everything is set up, everything works. These are kind of rough mechanical tests, you could say, or whatever you want to call them. For example, the same feathering process, feathering, which is the precise orientation of the airship, occurs around the lower mooring point. All airships consistently feather by the nose, most often in almost all practical cases. Feathering around the lower mooring point is a more complex task because there's an additional factor involved here. If we hold it by the nose, the airship is brought in, the wind blows, and it calmly turns like a weather vane. If we hold it by the bottom and the wind blows from the side, a bending moment appears here and the airship tries to tip over.
The lever arm is shorter.
Here, an additional lever arm appears, which isn't there when your attachment point is on the axis. In this case, it's underneath. So in general, there are significant bending moments, the lock is highly loaded, and as a result, the landing gear is sturdy and therefore so wide. Overall, the basic design scheme of the NOVA 01 has now been worked out. We had it installed. In the video, whether you've seen it or not, I think there actually hasn't been a really high quality video made or posted specifically about this system. There, clearly sticking out of the ground, is a sturdy rod, approximately 25 centimeters tall and roughly 3.5 centimeters thick, with a distinct knob on its very top, and there's a lock, like a fork, with a device that latches onto this rod. It snaps shut automatically and holds it in place. After that, you can either detach it manually or use a servo to pull it. It will open and the rod will be released. So basically this lock would latch onto that rod. We tested feathering in various wind conditions. This was exactly what was very important to check. There were minimum wind speeds at which it would start to feather, and maximum wind speeds above which it shouldn't be done. So we had to carefully check and thoroughly verify, for example, that the airship is positioned at a certain angle and the wind is blowing at a certain speed, and what its radial turning speed is there at that moment. Around this lower point, what the loads are, all of this was very important in order to continue designing the landing gear strut of the NOVA 2 airship and its mooring lock. First of all, it absolutely won't feather at all, and it certainly won't break off. All the critical mounts, the landing gear struts and so on were specially made, how should I put it, significantly simplified and made lightweight. Basically, there's a precisely calculated scenario where it will definitely, without a doubt, break, so to speak. And if the structural load exceeded the calculated design value, then a critical part of the structural frame would inevitably break. Well, for example, the connecting rivets would simply pop out. We understood that, for example, the loads could exceed the calculated values. During feathering, this did not happen, and that's a good thing. And now, right after that, we continued working diligently on designing the crucial landing gear strut for the brand new Dirigible 2 and its associated mooring lock. And yes, it truly feathers perfectly. All the meticulously calculated scenarios matched precisely. Everything is absolutely great. The important work continues onward. There were also questions regarding the dynamics of the craft. For example, with the control surfaces at maximum deflection, what are its minimum turning, radii, rate of climb, and maximum climb angle? But everything is on aerodynamic control surfaces. That's all documented as well. Everything matches, everything is great. The NOVA 2 will be fast, agile, and yes, it will feather around the low point.
Will the Nova 2 also have two distinct docking points, or will we ultimately settle on just a single option?
There might even be 3 distinct docking points. Yes, there will be a lower docking point positioned right between the wheels on the front landing gear, so it can feather effectively at the very lowest point, a nose docking point, and an additional intermediate one. Most likely we will add a middle docking lock there just for testing purposes, because docking with this particular part of the airship is also quite interesting to try out and see what ultimately comes of it. We will see how it goes. Of course, the airship specialists do have some concerns about this specific aspect. Let me try to explain, my friends. I caught a cold from the air conditioner, you know how it is. Summer, it's hot, then suddenly it's cold. It's all quite confusing. So the lower docking point is low, and the only thing that can happen is you can't really hit it with the airship. You can only drive over it with a wheel and then roll off. So basically we're going to make it in an interesting shape. With a tall, sturdy mooring mast, you could potentially hit it, but only with the specially reinforced nose, and that's made of strong metal or composite telescopic tubes. These robust components will effectively absorb the entire impact, ensuring you won't scrape the delicate envelope, and you'll most likely have ample time to move away or maneuver the airship safely. It's actually very rare for an airship to accidentally hit the mooring mast with its side. Most often it approaches with the reinforced nose as intended. But at medium heights, it turns out that the nose of the airship passes, and it can actually damage the delicate envelope. Still, this particular point is quite interesting because your turning radius significantly decreases, and the bending moment, if you carefully take the lower point, there's a very large moment acting on the airship's main axis, but here it's much smaller, making it considerably easier to turn. So, on the Nova 2 project, all 3 crucial points will be present, and we'll meticulously look at and thoroughly work through all 3 of them.
Will there be any additional reinforcement planned, just in case of a contingency?
Well, of course, we'll install shock-absorbing screens there. Yes, of course, we'll come up with something, but right now, in reality, they're not being made because there are 2 main ones, and this is the 3rd, which comes later.
Not the highest priority task, let's put it that way.
Yes, because initially there was indeed the idea that this point would be quite convenient, for example, for a robotic machine, a cart or a conveyor to approach and then hook onto the airship so you wouldn't have to carry a very tall mast with you. It's incredibly convenient to hook onto this central middle point and, for example, effortlessly take the airship into the spacious hangar. And that's precisely why it was originally created. But now, even on the Nova 01, we've already started designing and meticulously building a specifically very low cart that hooks directly onto the lower mooring point and efficiently transports it. If this were all done on the Nova 01 system, that would be the 2nd round of comprehensive testing, achieving full automation all the way up to the hangar doors. We would take a tablet, select the specific vehicle, and around that vehicle its service devices would appear, such as the hangar, robotic carts, and so on. We press the button to bring out the vehicle, the hangar opens automatically, the cart brings out the airship, it undocks, takes off, if there's a flight mission, of course. And if it works out with the lower docking station, well, with a low-profile vehicle, then most likely we'll stick with the low ones. However, it is quite entirely possible that in actual fact it might not ultimately work out successfully there at all. Because in such a low-profile vehicle, I want to say, cram in all the necessary weight so that the airship doesn't tip over. So it keeps hovering around that point, so it really acts like an anchor. That might not work out. Yeah, but a small robot, for example, well, it's like a robot vacuum cleaner, but for the airship.
That's exactly how I pictured it.
Yeah, that's precisely how everyone imagines it, and it absolutely has to basically fit underneath the main landing gear strut, right? So it's kind of flat, and so that the airship's wheels, the landing gear strut, can keep rotating around it, while it just holds it and moves it at the same time. So far, everything seems to be working out, but if it doesn't work with this one, that's exactly when the middle point will come into play. The Nova 01 has a mount for a middle point, but we haven't used it yet. There's a spar there, so that's exactly where we need to make a power frame and install the point.
Can we say that we've completed the full cycle of all planned tests for the Nova 01?
This is just the very first development cycle. There will certainly be a second and then a third, subsequent cycle. The second cycle is focused on full automation, and the third is dedicated to refining it into a complete product, specifically within this particular size category.
So can we move on?
To the Nova 01?
Yes.
What's going on with it? Where is it?
How did it all happen? How did it go down?
How is it doing?
How's it doing? Yeah. And when will we see it back in action?
I want to see how many people are currently watching right now, whether they are ready to hear this message, if they are liking, if they are leaving their comments. If any of our audience are following along, please let us know. It is time. It is time. What's going on with the Nova 01?
It all happened on Saturday, as it turns out.
And what happened?
We had another round of flight tests, and we brought our partners and investors along.
Yes, our program was generally organized in such a way that when esteemed guests arrive at the airfield, they would go straight onto the runway, and the magnificent airship would already be in the air, actively flying. That's precisely how it was. When the guests arrived, it was indeed in the air, and everything was perfectly fine with it, just as planned. But if you rewind just 10 minutes back, before the guests had even entered the field, the dispatcher had explicitly warned us that there were significant gusts up to 12 meters per second, and that it was absolutely not necessary to take off. Like, it's entirely up to you. We had just previously asked him to please let us know if the gusts exceeded 10 meters per second. Of course, we always check the wind ourselves using the CoolTune device. But still, we went out there, measured it for about a full minute, and then the powerful gust suddenly came. So yes, he did warn us that gusts could reach up to 12 and to be careful. We were like, okay. We brought out the airship, lifted it up, and it was calmly flying. Everything was perfectly fine. Nothing bad was actually happening at all. So even with powerful gusts reaching up to 12 meters per second, they did indeed come, yes. Naturally, if the wind was blowing strongly from directly behind, it would certainly speed up. If from the side, it would gently shift its course. And if head-on, it would inevitably lose a significant amount of speed. But then it would still continue flying quite calmly and steadily. Overall, the stabilization and controllability of the entire device turned out to be good.
This isn't the first time we've flown in such strong winds.
We've flown in 10 meters per second before, and now in 12. In general, everything was really quite fine. Things only became problematic when the airship was mooring, basically landing on the same pad it took off from. And that pad is located right next to the hangar. You just can't be in close proximity to the hangar.
In the wind.
Yes, in strong wind conditions, you need to land it well before reaching the hangar, and it's best not to approach the hangar directly. And actually, we have known this. It's a sacred rule among airship pilots that you should move the airship away from the hangar as quickly as possible when you take it out of the hangar for operation. And you should land as far away from the hangar as is absolutely possible, and then very carefully, directly and confidently, meaning after thoroughly securing the airship, bring it back into the hangar. But as they say, you won't really understand what pain is until you get burned yourself. And just as the airship was approaching the hangar, it was caught by this whirlwind, the rotors as they're called, and it got pulled toward the hangar, bumped a bit against the hangar, and then hit the ground. At that point, it was almost completely out of control. It could have been avoided if it had been in fully automatic control mode. The automation would have already known what to do. Most likely this wouldn't have happened. But since there hadn't been any such cases before, it did happen. It hit the ground, and the landing gear strut broke off because it was designed for certain loads. These loads were exceeded, and there was a cargo attached to it that created an overload for the airship. Yes, at the precise moment the strut broke completely off, it was actually absorbing the significant impact, since it's specifically designed much like a spring. It then forcefully struck the main structural frame of the gondola, which subsequently caused the duralumin tube that securely attaches to the envelope to crack quite severely, and the very sharp end of the tube then cut the ballonet, splitting it very neatly and precisely right along the seam. One more.
It happened to the ballonet.
Yes, to ballonet.
The gas compartment remained untouched.
So the air compartment, yes, the air completely escaped. The airship gradually lost its original shape because...
the landing gear fell off.
Yes, since it no longer had any weight on it, it became too light and rose up.
And it did so quite abruptly.
Yes, it stabilized, well, as they say, it balanced out at about 300 meters altitude. But since the wind was strong, naturally it got carried away beyond the airfield's expansive territory. Of course, we absolutely didn't panic, but honestly, there was a very distinct feeling that something significant would happen to it today. Because when we were told the wind was strong, we were like, okay, we're flying anyway, and it was clear that, well, we'd have to deal with it regardless, and it was as if it was obvious, just unexpected, interesting, and beautiful. Sure, we knew something would happen to it, but when it actually did, it felt a bit different, experienced differently, but overall nothing terrible happened. So what actually happened was it gently lifted off, and we immediately started venting the gas from it. The gas was carefully vented, and the airship safely landed. Surprisingly, the assembled guests didn't panic at all, didn't scream, didn't get visibly upset. They enthusiastically geared up for an unexpected expedition. They collectively said, let's go find it. So, we quickly got into the waiting car and promptly set off.
I think it's only right to truly give you credit for that, because honestly I was quite surprised by how remarkably unflappable you were. At some point I even indeed thought it was all planned, because you were absolutely calm, really. When I saw it, my reaction was just hands to face, but Fyodor kept giving the tour as if everything had been planned. That was something for sure.
Well, if you look at the big picture, then yes, it was indeed planned. We specifically built Nova 01 precisely to truly experience every single possible scenario on it. And if you're actually going to crash a dirigible, it might as well be a quite relatively small one. Obviously, there will probably be accidents with larger ones too. There are no cars that never get into accidents. The same goes for airplanes and helicopters. Any kind of machinery is prone to accidents. Yes, the question is simply about what the costs of these failures are and what the risks are at each stage. That's why we made it small and let it crash a few more times, let it keep crashing. If this truly gives us valuable experience and so on, which will actually significantly reduce accidents with larger vehicles, then let it happen every single week for all I care. I am absolutely all for it. That's precisely why the Nova 01 was specifically created, and it is a crucial development.
With it, the cost of a mistake is lower.
Yes, it's precisely the same thing. We've always had this. You can tell a person something over and over again, and they'll hear it, perhaps even understand it intellectually, but until they physically touch it themselves and truly realize it's scorching hot, they won't genuinely comprehend it. Yes, and the operator understood perfectly well. I mean, he knew you shouldn't approach the hangar in windy conditions, but he'd flown up and landed there 1,000 times before. Well, yes, there was no wind, but that's already a derivative of a derivative. But now, or rather, after what happened, I'm sure he won't approach it even in calm weather. Yes, and they'll adjust the algorithm too, so it lands a bit farther away or something. Dima, of course, was really shaken up.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It was the first airship and the first breakdown, so he definitely felt responsible and guilty about the situation.
So the airship was successfully landed in a remarkably safe and secure spot, a location so incredibly safe in fact that we could only manage to reach it the following morning after waiting patiently through the night. We basically knew where it was, we could see it clearly, but because it's such an impenetrable thicket there, forest, swamp, all that, far away from everything, even roads, really. But it was no big deal. The next morning we went there, made a path, carefully took it all apart, transported it out, and nothing at all was damaged. All the computers, batteries, motors, controllers, basically everything. Well, yes, the gondola was completely destroyed, or rather, its structural frame, since it's riveted together, but that's really nothing too serious. The outer shell, of course, was significantly torn, but we managed to carefully remove it from there and then subsequently took it back to the hangar for further assessment and necessary repairs. A day later...
Did you assess the damage?
Yes, they sent a shell specialist who thoroughly assessed the damage and carefully checked everything, basically. As always, I don't want to mention any specific timelines, but honestly, I was quite surprised. Because when we were lifting it, everyone had a different attitude about it. Some people said, why bother taking it back? It's just trash now. Some said, let's just leave it here. Others said, we can't leave it here. It's about the environment after all. Let's take it along the road and dump it somewhere. And so on. Basically, the specialist said, if it were entirely up to me, I'd just throw it away. Like, on Tuesday morning next week we'll start, and by Wednesday, It will already be filled and standing. People are scolding me, but truly, those are his words I'm quoting. So the shell itself is also completely fine. The only thing is that it landed virtually in a swamp. You could indeed call it that. There was just a small pond there. It came to rest along the very shore of the pond, with one of its tail fins gently dipping into the water, and merely a single servo drive ended up fully submerged. But it works, they rinsed it with alcohol, and everything is fine with it.
I think we are incredibly lucky in this particular regard because, first of all, where exactly did that mysterious pond even come from? In the very middle of the field indeed. And the blimp landed literally right next to it, just 1 meter away from the pond. If it had landed in the water, it would have been much worse, of course. But as it is, it's completely intact. And by the way, it's also quite remarkable that we successfully managed to completely disassemble the entire blimp and carefully pack it all into a single land cruiser. And there were still 5 people comfortably seated in there as well.
Well, it's small, yeah.
A small blimp, yes.
Before this, we used to transport it on a trailer, which was made for its mobile mooring mast. And it seemed, wow, that's cool. I mean, a blimp with a volume of 130 cubic meters, it's actually pretty big when it's flying, can be transported by just one car with a trailer. Actually, it can be done without a trailer, as we've proven. Yeah, we took everything out. Next week, we will diligently and actively begin the crucial process of restoring it. In just 1 week's time, we fully anticipate seeing it completely assembled, vibrantly alive, and entirely unharmed.
Scars make a man more attractive, and the same goes for an airship. So how will the repairs be carried out?
There is absolutely nothing complicated or difficult about this particular repair. Since the material tore precisely along the seam, it is essentially just one very large, continuous, and straightforward tear. There, a strip 3 centimeters wide is cut out, and with special heat machines like rollers, a team comes out, they degrease everything, and then carefully seal one seam with a single strip.
So the repair will actually take place right in the hangar. There's no need to take it to any repair shops.
Right in Voskresensk.
Another significant advantage is that repair work can be conveniently done right on site.
Well, of course, it's always best not to end up in such difficult situations, but still, I'd like to gently remind you that we made this rather small airship from the various materials we found and purchased in Russia. Unfortunately, it did not fully meet our specific requirements, both in terms of its overall strength and its crucial gas retention properties. But in order to get things done faster, we went with it. It was supposed to withstand 400 pascals, but it can only handle a maximum of 240. It was supposed to withstand a certain specified braking load, but it can't even handle half of that. I don't remember the exact figure, maybe a mere third at best. Basically, if we had made it from the fabric that was originally calculated and the one we have now, and if we were to make the same size models once our production process is fully set up and operational, we'll make the same kind of airship, but this time from the right fabric, and even if you hit it 3 or 4 times like before, nothing at all will happen to it. So, overall, if we had meticulously built this airship strictly according to the chief designer's precise instructions, nothing untoward would have happened to it. We simply simplified certain aspects for the sake of achieving greater speed. However, despite these simplifications, the outcome was genuinely surprising. Many individuals who were not at all familiar with airships before were absolutely amazed by what they witnessed. It seemed like that was absolutely it. The envelope was completely torn. It was like a flat tire on a car. That's pretty much exactly how airship people saw it. Oh, this? We'll just fix it right now. What? Yeah.
Patched it up and back on the road.
Yeah, the propellers. The propellers. When we hit the ground, the landing gear strut broke, propellers kept spinning, but we have a second set, so we'll put everything back together.
We can even show it.
Why? So, Nova 01 is very much alive and well indeed.
It'll be back in service soon.
Yeah, it'll be back in service soon.
We do have spare propellers, right?
Yeah, we've got everything. We brought double or even triple sets of everything. And the airship that's currently being prepared next, the 190 cubic meter one, that particular one will be finished very quickly because we already have 90% of all the necessary components ready. Because for Nova 01, we have successfully acquired some essential components that are equipped with either double spares or even triple spares. And by the way, I'm pleased to inform you that it will be ready very soon. We just received the exciting news today, this very day, that tomorrow we will finally be able to go and see the highly anticipated envelope.
The envelope that was being prepared for the aerolet?
Yes.
The envelope that was being prepared for the aerolet?
Yes. Well, I heard that it still genuinely needs a considerable amount of time to properly rest, so that all the intricate seams can fully settle into their final positions. According to the technical process, yes, after welding the last seam, the envelope should rest for a day or two. But the guys who are making it now, we're not making it ourselves. We're having it made at an outside facility, because ours is being assembled. By the way, good news. The main machines, the welding equipment are already on their way to us. Well, the equipment on which the shell of the Nova 2 and Nova 8 crucibles will be manufactured, and if there are any intermediate models, then those intermediate versions as well. And we're having this made at an outside facility where they have similar machines, and they're suitable for making small envelopes, for example 130 to 200 cubic meters, but anything larger is impossible. Even this envelope, when the guys were preparing it, was made at a textile factory where they produce various inflatable items, even up to bouncy castles, so to speak. And they know how to weld the various envelopes, different types of fabrics, materials, and so on. Naturally, they didn't know how to weld airships, so our skilled engineers, our envelope specialists, genuinely helped them. Throughout the entire process, we brought their technologists and designers over, showed them the Nova 01, how it is built, how the various transitions, joints, and seams are made, how the grommets are welded, attached, sewn, and how the nose reinforcements are done. We basically showed them what they would be making, and then they manufactured it. So today they called and said, tomorrow we'll be doing the pressure test, meaning we'll fill the shell with air and check it for air tightness. Yes, you can certainly come and personally monitor it. So basically, tomorrow we have the official acceptance test, which is essentially a kind of trial run. They will carefully inflate it, and if everything's perfectly fine, then right there on the spot we'll be wrapping things up and formally accepting it. However, it will stay with them for the time being, because this particular shell is quite interesting. You'll definitely see it a bit later. It's certainly not a standard one at all. And it's made up of several parts. Basically, they're still going to manufacture the second part now, but that won't take long. On the 10th, we'll receive the complete shell. By the 10th, we'll already have the computers, controllers, engines, all of it ready. Part of the frame, the nose and tail reinforcements, and the empennage are being manufactured.
And the goal for September is to get it airborne. You could say that by then our aerolet will also be practically ready. Its active production phase is underway right now. Right now there's even a bit of a race. Which one will take off again first, Nova 01 or aerolet? Nova 01 should.
Do we have a priority? Which one needs to take off sooner?
The priority is with aerolet. And so how exactly are things currently going with the big brother then?
With Nova 2? Yes. How are things going? It's quite active, and everyone is working very diligently. I don't even know where to begin to start. Some essential things are currently being produced. Some are being carefully refined, some are being paid for. Some important things that have already been fully paid for have now arrived. Some are being meticulously selected for future purchase, and necessary materials are being actively bought for production in various places. For example, these specific pockets were just precisely welded on for the frame gondola's main spars. This is all from the crucial material that will be ultimately used for Nova 2. Special structures are being welded, pipes are being inserted here, special rupture machines are being installed. In other words, we are already starting to test the shell elements, such as these tubular lugs. The grommets were also recently completed. Yes, various essential brackets as well. This is all already being meticulously made and thoroughly tested. The comprehensive structural and load-bearing design of the gondola is practically finished, and the tooling is already in full production. A significant number of specialized tools have been carefully produced for precisely stamping these specific aluminum elements, from which the entire gondola structure is then meticulously riveted and subsequently assembled. So several tools have been made, and a number of elements have indeed been stamped and manufactured. The quality has been very much confirmed, and now all the remaining tooling is currently being finalized. All the aluminum needed for stamping all these parts is purchased, along with special tools, rivets, and a whole bunch of other interesting things. All the comprehensive design documentation for these specific aluminum bends has already been meticulously handed over to production. First, it's precisely cut on a powerful laser, then the large substantial pieces are carefully bent on big industrial bending machines. After that, everything else is skillfully finished on a smaller, more specialized bending machine, and then it's accurately placed into the tooling and expertly formed. The gondola assembly has started, but not very actively, because right now the focus has shifted to the aerolet. The production team, the fitters, the engineers, and so on have all switched over, but they've only switched to the aerolet for about a week, just to assemble the frame and the tail unit, which should take a week and a half at most. Then we'll return to the Nova 2 and the gondola production. That's when things will get interesting. Right now, the crucial test stand is being actively and meticulously assembled. That is, the powerful internal combustion engines that will be precisely installed in the very first version of the Nova 2 aircraft. We affectionately call it the Flying Laboratory, as it serves as a vital platform for extensive testing and development. A substantial number of innovative solutions will be thoroughly tested there, which will subsequently be fully utilized in both the passenger-piloted version and the unmanned cargo version, as well as in the unmanned monitoring version. And now, the dedicated test stand is currently being meticulously assembled specifically for the unmanned cargo and unmanned monitoring versions. Well, there's the engine, of course, the complete fuel system, the efficient exhaust system for it, and robust generators will be securely attached there, then precise rectifiers, intelligent controllers, reliable batteries, and powerful electric motors. In short, we are meticulously assembling a comprehensive test stand for the advanced hybrid power unit. Right now, a second test stand is being carefully assembled based on this very same engine. In this particular setup, the engine will directly drive the propellers. So the hybrid version is when the engine drives the generator then produces electricity, and the electric motor subsequently turns the propellers. That's one test stand being assembled now. The second stand is for when the engine will directly drive the propellers through a transmission, but the transmission isn't available yet. It has just now successfully and fully gone into production. The robust propeller in its protective ring, the precisely engineered bevel gearboxes, the highly efficient swivel transmission itself, and the main gearbox. Is this your own development? Yes, we developed everything ourselves entirely from scratch, and now in two distinct areas, one of which is entirely and exclusively ours, and the second is partially, approximately about half ours. You could certainly put it that way. We started the process of manufacturing these rings in two distinct places. First, because we needed two sets, and they take a considerable amount of time to make, and second, just to thoroughly check where the overall quality. A bit of healthy competition, we truly needed to be faster. At first, the initial lead time to make a single ring was about 6 long months. Now all of that extensive production time has been significantly reduced to just a few short months. So if we are able to get 2 complete sets in just a few months, a single dedicated team simply wouldn't have been able to deliver that for us anyway. Therefore, we wisely diversified our efforts a bit. The rings have indeed started being produced, so just wait a little bit longer and you'll soon see exciting content from the entire production process. And how we will assemble the gondola, and how we will make the EVA, and how we will make the propellers, and how we will build the gearboxes, and all of the intricate and detailed mechanics, and how we are making the shell.
Are there any significant difficulties or hiccups in any areas, or are we moving strictly according to plan, indeed everything going well?
Maybe there are some delays with deliveries or something like that. Is there nothing like that for us? No, there aren't any significant issues. The only real issue or potential delay we currently have is that we genuinely lack enough skilled hands overall, specifically talented designers who can think very quickly and respond promptly and efficiently. There isn't even a single dedicated designer who is responsible for just one specific assembly or mechanism and can calmly work on it. He's working on several things at once, and also frequently gets distracted by minor tasks like restoring the aerolets, or in NOAV 01 having to redesign the gondola. He has to get distracted. Well, of course, yes, and the work on Nova 8 isn't standing still either. It's continuously progressing.
If only the team were a little bit larger and more extensively resourced, there wouldn't be any significant problems or difficulties whatsoever.
Is there a comprehensive plan to significantly expand the team itself? Of course, that is indeed the overarching plan. By the conclusion of this current year, overall, that's precisely what we had firmly in mind. Based on the extensive workload and the strategic requirements, it became abundantly clear that the AERONOVA team should ideally be comprised of around 100 dedicated people. Right now, we have successfully reached approximately 60 individuals, and for the immediate future, we are not planning to expand further at this particular moment. We need to reorganize the processes a bit in order to continue expanding, but to do that, we first need to finish what we've already started. So now we're going to bring Nova 2 to a certain level of readiness. We want to develop it without breaking what's already working. The mechanism is up and running, and it's working. Yes, it's a bit under strain, but that's okay. Once the development process is completely finished, then we can do a little bit of reshuffling, add some extra dedicated people, and effectively redistribute the various processes. I think that this will happen around the New Year's period. Siapo.
I think we need to make sure that the work is running smoothly, so we don't hire a team and then having people sitting with nothing to do, because
we don't have the time to sit around with absolutely nothing to do. We have only 4 short years left until the big, magnificent, rigid airship takes to the skies. Just 4 years.
Only a year has truly already passed.
Well, actually, the entire year was quite productive, and it truly started from the very beginning of the pre-launch phase. In October, it will mark exactly 1 full year, meaning a full year since we officially started working actively in the office.
That's how it is for now? Yeah. Moving on to some other truly important and quite interesting news. I recently saw on social media that AERONOVA, you actually gave a talk at a conference somewhere. Or perhaps it was not you, was it?
Moscow 2030. What kind of event is this? Why were you there? What exactly did you just bring over there with you? Those who live in Moscow know very well what the Moscow 2030 event is. I actually live in Moscow, by the way, and to be honest, I don't fully understand it myself. As I understand it, this project is essentially about all the key areas in which Moscow specifically plans to develop. That notably includes industry, design, development, and culture. There were indeed a lot of different points discussed. It is a project that was initiated by the mayor of Moscow. There were many different locations all over the city of Moscow, and at each individual location, sessions were held on specific topics of interest. Both business representatives as well as government officials attended and participated in these sessions. And educational institutions, cultural organizations, and various important concepts, specifically about the future, about which precise direction everything will move, where development will truly go. There were various presentations, engaging exhibitions, and informative seminars. And at one of these particular presentations about the exciting future of architecture, interestingly enough, we, AERONOVA, were indeed the designated speakers, so I was personally the one presenting the material. I must apologize, as I do not currently recall the specific name of the architectural bureau. My sincere apologies for that oversight, everyone. Essentially, they were the primary initiators of this entire project. They approached us approximately 6 months ago and clearly stated, "Hello, we have these compelling and innovative ideas." These foundational ideas, in fact, originated a considerable time ago, specifically dating back to the period when the individuals involved were diligently working on and ultimately completing their academic dissertations. Generally, for many architects, it often happens that at some significant point in their professional journey, there's a kind of profound revelation that architecture can indeed be aerostatically unloaded. It doesn't necessarily have to press down on the ground. It can, so to speak, try to float. And in fact, over the past 100 years, quite a lot of concepts and projects like this have already been created. But mainly, it was during the era of the development of aeronautics that all the boldest concepts appeared. Although even now, as it turns out, in many architectural universities, people even write dissertations, theses. Well, perhaps not dissertations, I misspoke, but rather theses specifically about aerostatically unloaded architecture and structures, in simple terms, sky cities. floating houses, or at least those structures trying to float, and not necessarily just houses. Consider, for example, expansive parks or certain designated zones. So in general, such interesting ideas often come up. They had these particular ideas, they came directly to us, to AERONOVA, and said, guys, we are truly on the very same path as you. Yeah, but how realistic is all of this really? So we sat down, worked things out, and shared our own ideas too. I had a bunch of ideas myself. Why not use Archimedes' principle and the principles of aerostatics not just in the design of airships, not just in stratospheric probes, but even to significantly relieve. My original idea was to relieve the substantial load on the magnificent Zaryadye Park. It's a truly great park. It's located right in the very center of our capital city. It's like a wonderful calling card. Look, there are beautiful meadow flowers blooming in the heart of Moscow. Everything is absolutely beautiful. Well, in general, it's stylish and trendy, and you can relieve the load aerostatically. When you fill balloons or other helium-filled volumes, they naturally pull upwards with a significant buoyant force. For example, imagine a magnificent suspended park, an innovative architectural marvel, gracefully supported by several of these impressive aerostatic balloons, all interconnected with each other. Yes, they can simply create a very substantial second-level park, and you can move around it like on cable cars or something quite more substantial really, depending on the size of these things. So you don't necessarily have to build a metal structure, you can make a lightweight construction that tries to lift itself. So in short, we agreed that aerostatic architecture is interesting, it's cool, and this architectural firm applied to the Moscow 2030 project after our conversation. Basically they said, yes guys, we're with you. And that's truly what happened, yes. Yes, it turns out that we actually applied together with them, in fact. I am being corrected just now, you see. So, Moscow 2030, the architecture of the future. We sat at a significant session just like this one and presented a detailed report. This report was about the exciting fact that it's quite possible that in the vibrant Moscow of the future, there will be magnificent floating restaurants, innovative second-level parks, and a lot of other truly interesting and groundbreaking things. It was really just kind of like a trial balloon, so to speak, actually. To truly understand and assess how prepared and receptive people's minds, the general public and, so to speak, the governing authorities are for truly serious, fundamentally and conceptually new ideas and approaches.
Solutions, yes. Was it just the general idea of implementing such significant infrastructure projects that was initially put forward? Or were there already some quite concrete and detailed solutions being actively proposed?
It was more of an educational lecture about how aerostatic forces are unjustly forgotten forces, that we crucially need to bring them back, and that it's highly economically viable and significant. And both in the dynamic sense, how to make airships and so on, and also in the static sense, like creating and manufacturing such impressive architecture, it's entirely possible, it's absolutely necessary, it's truly useful, it's incredibly interesting, it's completely safe. That was indeed the main focus of the entire lecture. And it's feasible, meaning we have everything we need for this, all the technologies, all the teams, and we know exactly what to do. And most importantly, we announced there that we're already doing it. So it's not like, hey, let's do this together, but rather, starting now, from September through November, this architectural bureau, which was also an initiator, is getting started. I don't remember what it's called. Right, Doburo. And what exactly is the actual name of this particular competition? Open City. Open City. What exactly is that all about? It is an architectural competition, basically, in which, yes, so the fundamental idea was to meticulously create a completely separate and distinct category for aerostatically unloaded architecture within this specific open city architectural competition, and then carefully observe how various architects would thoughtfully respond to this unique challenge. Both renowned and highly respected architects, as well as just students currently studying at various architecture universities. Whether there would be submissions from them, and if so, to actively participate in the overall Open City initiative and truly make it all happen. From the side of AERONOVA, we would provide expert input to architects, specifically about aerostatics, what materials are currently available, the laws and so on, always from a physics perspective. How it all works, what everything is built from, so that they understand the scale and volume. In short, from an expert perspective, specifically on aerostatics, they would integrate all of this. So we agreed on that. Doburo took on the entire organization of the whole thing, and applications started coming in. At first it was just 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 10, then 20, then 30, then 40, then 50. And there was already a real and significant interest in this aerostatically unloaded architecture, which is quite surprising, very pleasant, and truly cool. And so, within the comprehensive framework of this Open City initiative, seminars will now be meticulously held. First and foremost, all those individuals who successfully pass, meaning we will conduct a thorough application selection process, and those who genuinely pass the rigorous selection, we will hold several strategic and insightful sessions with them, something akin to informative lectures. We will comprehensively explain to them precisely how everything operates and functions, and in the end, a select number of promising projects will be carefully chosen to reach the final and conclusive stage. Models of their innovative concepts will be meticulously built, and we'll generally figure out exactly what will happen with them and their future development. There will definitely be something cool and interesting, because when you actually talk to young specialists, even architects, everyone thinks very boldly, everyone thinks in a very unconventional way. And most importantly, it's not some kind of unreal, fantastical level, but it's already much more on the practical side of things. And something truly cool and innovative will most likely be born from this endeavor, and these advanced models will be meticulously created as an integral part of this Open City initiative. So it turns out that Moscow will even provide assistance with the production of these models, and then they will be prominently displayed in official pavilions at various exhibitions. The competition inherently assumes that there will be some winners. Will these winners receive financial grants or something of that nature?
I really don't know for sure at this moment. I just simply know that
such a movement is taking shape. Yes, that something will be born. Actually, there's a specialist sitting over there who can easily explain what's going on and how it works. I'm not spending my time on that. They told me, you'll be giving lectures together with Zubkevich. Okay, I will. Then they say, you're going to present at Moscow 2030. I say, great, here's your report. Yes, in general, they say there will be an exhibition, it will be open, and people will be able to come, see, get acquainted with these models, these concepts, with the authors, and most likely with us as well. We'll probably be present at the exhibition too. And the exhibitions will last quite a while. It seems the models will then travel to different cities. So, as the exciting event approaches, please keep a close eye on our various social media posts. We will most likely cover absolutely everything and share all of the important details. So yes, that is precisely how this truly large, cool movement was originally formed. Thanks to Do Bureau for reaching out to us, knocking on our door and saying guys would join us. Yes, by the way, they also got deeply involved. In general, they really like not only the fascinating theme of architecture, but also airships as magnificent carriers of large, expansive spaces inside which the person of the future should be, that is to say, us. Because with airplanes, it's clear. With helicopters, it's clear, but it's airships that offer truly large spaces. And so, creating entirely new, highly ergonomic, thoroughly modern spaces, that's their desire, that's their true calling and passion. They've already shown us a variety of different concepts and detailed ideas of what could potentially be inside the airship, and there are such truly amazing, innovative things. For example, just imagine for a moment that you come in. Now I'm going to refer to Muscovites once more, or really to anyone at all. Many individuals have undoubtedly experienced a distinct kind of cultural shock when visiting some remarkably new, incredibly modern place. Whether it's a newly constructed hotel, an imposing new skyscraper, or even a vast new shopping mall, when you step into some fresh, contemporary space, you invariably feel that it's something truly cool and genuinely innovative. And what profoundly impresses many people about airships right now is on an entirely different and much more significant level. Modern trends, the fact that new residential complexes, new skyscrapers, new restaurants are being built right now, this is happening today. But architects and designers already have a clear understanding of what things will look like in about 5 years. While we don't see it yet, but they are already incorporating it. And in our airships, in these spaces, architectural solutions of the future are already being embedded. And that's truly, truly impressive, especially considering that while you're physically there, you're also soaring high up in the sky, with a truly magnificent and breathtaking view. It's absolutely incredible, of course. We're definitely in for something truly astonishing and remarkable.
Awesome. How are things currently progressing with our other very important event that we are also diligently preparing for? I am, of course, referring to the significant Dubai Air Show. It is approaching quite soon, in the month of November, specifically from the 17th day through to the 21st day.
Are we just going? Has the decision already been made yet? Yes, we will definitely be there. Our dedicated team representing AERONOVA at the upcoming exhibition has already been fully formed and is now ready to participate. The technical specifications for the booth construction have been handed over to the contractor, who is local. We already know what our booth will look like, and we understand what messages we want to convey there. We clearly understand which specific aspects we need to highlight, what precisely we will be declaring for the immediate near future. In other words, how exactly we will be strategically positioning ourselves within that particular context. All of that is absolutely clear and well defined. We genuinely and sincerely hope, and indeed truly want, to impress each and every individual with a detailed and modern model of a truly large airship. Right now, we currently have two distinct concepts. Honestly, we started a little bit late on this, because the upcoming Dubai exhibition has been widely known about for a considerable amount of time. But since the project as a whole is still quite young, and everything is happening very quickly and rather turbulently, we only recently started working on the exhibition in such extensive detail, and as it turns out, with such incredibly tight deadlines, no one is even truly willing to take on making models. But these are unrealistic deadlines, so we decided to do it ourselves. We sincerely hope that it works out well. Overall, even without all of those impressive wow effects and so on, we will still have a truly huge amount of fascinating materials on display. We'll present everything on our various TVs, screens, and informative handouts. We'll declare it all clearly, show it effectively, explain the core concepts thoroughly, and provide comprehensive explanations. In short, together with you, we will firmly plant the very first significant stake in the vast media space, specifically within global aviation, unequivocally showing that we are indeed the ones taking on the exciting future of aeronautics, because we profoundly know that among everyone currently active on the market, everyone participating in this important exhibition, it will undeniably be us who set that crucial stake. And the exhibitions are held once every 2 years. In 2 years, when we go there, we will already arrive with concrete results. Of course, right now we have the Nova 01 and we have the Aerolet. If we manage to produce the Nova 02 envelope by then, we'll be showing it there on video as well. So it's not just that we showed up and claimed to be airship builders, we really are airship builders. But in 2 years, when we return to this exhibition, we'll be coming back with larger craft that, just like airplanes, helicopters, and fighter jets, will be flying there. It's a show after all, and we'll be flying with you as well, proving that we're moving forward, that we're modern.
By the way, we got acquainted with all the participants who will be there. Are there really no airships from around the world at the event? There are companies that work with them, like Zeppelin, and there are some in China too.
But from what I gathered from the list of participants, it seems like there won't be anyone there at all. It's as if there aren't any. But the last time I checked the list, there were still a lot of blank spots. We'll go over them again. But basically, overall, it's quite clear that the companies you mentioned, these are indeed innovative airship companies that are actively aiming for a very promising future. For example, there's the well-known French company, Solar Aircraft, which is making significant advancements in this exciting field. Electric, hybrid, airships, completely fuel-free and all that, are becoming a reality. But somehow, even though their website is developing, there's no news, nothing to be seen, and it doesn't seem like they'll come to the exhibition and announce anything. Now, a Chinese company can afford to come to the exhibition. Sergey Brin could come to the exhibition, Airlander could come to the exhibition, but with them everything is clear, everything is obvious. They would have already declared what they want. So when it comes to the future, it looks like it'll just be us making announcements. Honestly, it's a bit nerve-wracking, but also quite pleasant. The fact that we've only been around for a year, and by November it will quite literally be a full year of us working really, really actively as a team. And we're already at an international exhibition.
with a functioning device, even if it's just a prototype, actually with 2 of them.
Yeah, actually the plan was originally to bring a dirigible there so it could fly around. Take for example the Aerolet, which is a well-known type of airship. But these days, getting something unmanned and flying out of the country is almost like performing a magic trick or some kind of mysterious sorcery. So most likely everything will be set up so that our booth will have remote pilot stations and probably just one of them available. There will also be a sort of control post or command center where almost anyone interested can try piloting the dirigible in real time. This dirigible, which will actually be located and flying in Russia, can be remotely controlled from our booth. So this is also a kind of demonstration, and a very interesting one. Right now this is the peak of unmanned technologies. Many people on the internet may have seen, and those who are directly familiar with this know, that remote pilots and remote controllers are commonly used in various types of construction equipment and mining machinery. And this is considered to be the most advanced technology available today, and we already have such a modern and reliable system in place. And it will very easily and smoothly operate from Dubai as well, connecting directly to the airship here in Russia with minimal delays. And from there, they will be flying here for us. And this is a cool interactive experience that will show that we haven't just mastered Archimedes' principles by filling a bag with helium, but in just 1 year we've already developed all the software, flight systems, control systems, and all of them are functioning and working. And we will make it very clear that it only took us 1 year, so that people can truly appreciate the potential of what will happen in 3 or 5 years. Since there will be a significant number of industry players, a large group of investors, a variety of politicians, and numerous people in positions of power present at the event, we need to make sure that we present ourselves in the best possible way. Let's take the time to get fully prepared and ready for this important occasion.
Great. So we've already been going for an hour. I think we can slowly start moving on to the questions.
Go ahead, please.
I'm sure we have some messages here. All right, friends, let me just open it up and see exactly what you've written to us today. All right, here's the very first question, but I think we've already answered it. Hello, were you able to catch the airship? Yes, the airship was caught and has now returned home. Hello. Is it possible for investors to get detailed statistics by country? That's a bit outside our scope. Is it possible to make an airship with a nuclear power plant on board or with a hydrogen installation?
I hope we will make it, and that by the time we have our first rigid airship, Rosatom will notice us and propose a joint project. Because Rosatom is extremely eager to install its nuclear reactors absolutely everywhere, on submarines, on all kinds of surface ships, on spacecraft, you name it. So why not put one in an airship as well? Honestly, I really don't see any obstacles. It would be absolutely awesome.
We'll be waiting for such a request. When is the construction of a passenger airship scheduled to be built? Will there be such a project? It's as if you haven't been following our webinars very closely.
Yes, look. That airship, as the Nova 2 flying laboratory, will already be flying in unmanned mode during this upcoming winter. Right after the first test flights and other procedures, the second version will be manufactured. It will already be a passenger version. It will undergo individual certification, and next year, in 2026, we'll be able to ride it together. So the first passenger airship is coming very soon.
Very soon. It's honestly a bit hard to believe, really. Well, Elon Musk didn't succeed on his first try either. You learned from your mistakes. Congratulations on your first lesson. Thank you. You can definitely repair it and fly again. Those are truly words of encouragement.
Yes, but actually, from the very first time, overall, if you really think about it, those individuals who are directly involved in the development and production of technology, they understand perfectly well and are fully aware that in order to manufacture, for example, the same camera, they produce them in a certain way. Not just dozens, but actually hundreds, and they break, malfunction, and all sorts of unexpected things happen to them. So this is a completely natural and expected process in the creation of technology. Without dropping, breaking, damaging, or ruining a certain number, it's impossible to say that you've truly achieved perfection. The type certification procedure for a device involves manufacturing several units, 2 of which are completely destroyed.
To break it.
Yes, that is, they make it specifically to break it, just to really understand it.
The weak points, what needs to be improved?
There are a ton of different tests, yes, which lead to the complete destruction of the device, and since we are the ones developing them, we don't create, how should I put it, we didn't buy it in a store so that it would just work for us, fly and do something. We are the ones creating them, so we have every right to break them. Sometimes it's controlled, sometimes not so much, but it's all a natural process.
Alright, next question. Shouldn't we put a little pressure on China and build our own high-altitude power station on an airship? They've gotten a bit too full of themselves after the parade.
That's certainly very patriotic and traditional indeed. But let's remember, China is our friend and ally. They just recently held a major meeting, and I think we should definitely work together with them. As for whether or not we need to make such turbines, there currently aren't any requests for them at the moment, so it's not really clear right now. If China has found it worthwhile to use them and is actively funding their development, then let them go ahead with it. We can always reassess the situation in the future if circumstances change. We will be able to manufacture such a turbine once we master the process of creating the Nova 2 and Nova 8. It won't be difficult for us to design and produce them. If there is a request or desire, we will make them with ease.
Let me ask again, could you please tell me what are the objectives of the laboratory?
The flying laboratory?
Yes, it wasn't specified here.
I don't want to say something like what happened with Nova 01, crash and disappear. In reality, technology of this kind isn't developed in such a short time frame. There is an enormous number of different details where every tiny part needs to be thought through in advance 2 or even 3 times, and how these parts fit together, function, and so on. From theoretical calculations to the algorithmization of functionality and everything else. So to just take all that and do it in a year, usually several years are allotted for development. But since we don't have that kind of luck, it's easier to create an underdeveloped device, so to speak, and then refine it during production or initial operation, basically improving it on the spot. It's much more efficient and faster and more effective and better, and you gain valuable experience along the way. The task of a flying laboratory is this: not to impose high demands on production and not to set serious requirements for development, but to proceed to production, to proceed to trial operation, so that the production team gets properly equipped and gains the necessary experience. And the developers, so to speak, can understand things hands-on with the hardware, make changes and so on. Of course, you can design any product on paper or in a 3D model, but when it's right in front of you, physically present, and your task is, for example, to start equipping it with internal instruments and so on, everything becomes much clearer, some things become obvious, and it turns out that something should have been done differently here. In general, the purpose of the flying laboratory is simply to speed up the process of creating the Nova 2 airship. Naturally, it is also to test and validate most of the various computational models: dynamic, structural, stability, and so on. It will feature the structural framework of the passenger crewed version. For example, the landing gear strut will remain the same as before, and there will also be a mooring lock included. However, the propulsion and power unit will be sourced from the unmanned cargo version. The propeller ring engines, on the other hand, will come from the crewed version. You cannot simply go and prepare the propeller ring engines right away, so to speak, as there are certain steps and requirements that must be followed first. Technically, According to the law, you could actually put an experimental aviation pilot in there and have him fly the aircraft. But why would you put a person at risk if all of this can be thoroughly tested in unmanned modes, working out all the systems together? So that the propellers work, and the rings, and the swiveling transmissions, and the engines, and the control system, and the entire structural and load-bearing scheme all function together. Everything will be tested, some things will fail, some will turn out to be perfectly made right away, and some will require modification. That is, we will already have a large aircraft flying, and in a very short period of time, we will be able to create its next 3 versions: a manned passenger version, an unmanned cargo version, and an unmanned monitoring version. So a flying laboratory is truly an inevitable and essential stage that must be gone through. No one, not even someone with a car, manufactures it and immediately says, "It's ready, get in and drive." Still, at first, the base is tested separately, even without the body, and is assembled and worked on. For example, right now, our chassis is being assembled separately, and some systems are being worked on separately as well. And there's also a term called Iron Bird. This is when the entire control system with all its actuators is simply laid out, basically as if on a test stand. Everything that should be installed in the airship, onboard computers, fans, various drives, controllers, fuses, all the power electronics, all of this isn't inside the airship but just laid out on a table, so to speak, and it all functions. So first the guts appear, then these guts can be installed on a mock-up, and then this mock-up can be lifted into the air. That would be a flying prototype. And at each stage, incremental improvements are made. If something gets approved, everything's okay, we don't touch it, we don't mess with it. It works, and only after that is the final version installed in the actual combat-ready product. The flying laboratory is just one of the important stages involved in creating a fully functional airship.
Am I right in understanding that this will be something like a construction set? Where exactly will it be possible to test the piloted version, or rather the passenger version of this innovative vehicle first? Then, will the cargo gondola truly detach from there, or what specific stages will this entire process actually go through?
No, it will initially begin as a flying laboratory. It will proceed through several different iterations of testing. First, it will undergo an initial round of tests, then we will make a change, conduct a second round, then a third, and throughout it will remain as it is. So it won't be used as a combat-ready product, it can keep flying and providing us with data. Basically, we can experiment with it. But to go beyond the originally planned scope, to radically change something entirely on it, for example. After that, it goes to a museum, and then we begin the process of producing 3 more or less combat-ready versions.
Taking into account all the developments and findings obtained from the laboratory.
Of course, absolutely.
Got it. Let's move on now.
Yes.
So, in what year will you build the 10-ton model? So, the 10-ton model is most likely about the Nova 35?
Yes, the big rigid one, exactly. We officially announced that it would be ready exactly 5 years from the very start of the project. So far, nothing has changed in the plan, it's still the same.
We're currently moving according to the outlined plan at this time. Are there any updates regarding the airfield, please?
Everything has been worked out regarding the airfield. There are quite a lot of administrative, operational and permitting issues to deal with and so on. We had to get properly acquainted with the district administration where it's located and with everyone with whom we'll have to share the sky. With those to whom we will have to report every single takeoff and every landing. All of this important work has already been completed. Approval has been received, everything is fully agreed upon and everything is great, so we are totally ready for the deal. However, we have not closed the deal yet. In fact, we were supposed to do it today. There are a few minor hiccups on the seller's side, which he is currently fixing to ensure that everything is absolutely safe for us, and it will definitely happen.
Excellent. So it seems like that's all the news, or rather, that's the end of the news and the questions. Friends, if you have any more questions, let's please wait just a couple more minutes. If you're ready to write, go ahead. If not, then... Let's wrap up. This time we held the webinar quite efficiently. So, I see there are no more questions, friends. Let's wrap up here then. Is there anything else?
That's enough, they say. Friends, please leave your comments and feedback about the webinars in general. Do you miss them or not? Should we perhaps hold them more often? You can also suggest new topics for future webinars. If you are really following along and waiting for something, you can go ahead and submit your questions in advance. Let's make this even more lively and interactive, Mondeo. We're all spending our valuable time on this, so if you need it, please give us a like. If you learned something useful or want to learn something new, just write to us. Let's communicate. Feedback is very important. It's crucial for us to know that you're actually watching. And we're not doing this for nothing.
Not in vain?
Yes, and judging by the questions, it's clear that you're watching and it's probably interesting for you. We just wish there was more activity. Before every webinar, you get nervous and wonder,
how will it go?
Yeah, well, thank you for being with us today. We truly appreciate you joining us and for following the project and supporting us along the way. Your encouragement really means a lot to us. We'll try to go live again the Thursday after next, and we hope you can join us then. We are working to make our content more interesting and more frequent, so there will always be something new for you to enjoy. Solar Group is doing everything it can to make that happen.
By the way, if you have any questions about investments, partners or countries, feel free to come and ask them at our webinars. I host them on Tuesdays. I will definitely write down all your questions and answer them at the webinar, which will take place next week. So once again, thank you to everyone who joined.
Goodbye, everyone.
See you all soon, everyone.
Solar Group presents. This was once just a dream of the skies, the freedom of flight, of round-the-world journeys. Yet we've made it happen. But what did it take? Our dreams became our goals. Our concepts turned into our plans. Our ideas have transformed into a roadmap and production technology. And the years ahead are booked out with development and construction, components and materials, model manufacturing and testing. All this marks the progress from dream to result. Join us on this journey. Solar Group presents a new generation of airships. The best way to predict the future is to create it, so let's do so together.